Hi everyone, it's Victor Chang from CaseInterview.com and the author of Case Interview Secrets. I'm thrilled to be interviewing a very special guest today. His name is Roger Love. He is one of the top voice coaches in Hollywood, if not the top voice coach. And what I want to do before we jump in here, we'll be talking about using your voice to project confidence instead of nervousness. But I wanted to give you just some of his clients that he's worked with before to give you a sense of just who he really is. Roger's worked with as both a singing coach as well as a voice coach for public speakers. Academy Award winners Reese Witherspoon, Jeff Bridges, Mandy Moore, Rebecca Romaine, Mila Jovovich, Tyra Banks, Colin Farrell, Anthony Robbins, Susie Orman. I believe you're the voice coach for the television show Glee, which is one of my favorite shows. And I had to write it all down because it was such a long list that I didn't want to forget anything. So Roger, thank you so much for being willing to do this and to share with us your insights around how to project a confident voice in a job interview. So thank you, first of all, for that.
My pleasure. I'm looking forward to learning from you and seeing where it goes.
Fair enough. Let's go and get started. The two topics I promised my audience that we would cover today are what it takes to be successful in the careers that you're most familiar with. I always like to study from other people's successes, and I find the principles of success oftentimes are very transferable across industry. And then I want to talk specifically about voice. What are the components of voice? What makes someone sound confident? And in comparison, what makes someone sound nervous? I always tell my students, it's okay to feel nervous, you just can't sound or act nervous. So if we can give them some guidance on that, that would be great.
Perfect.
Let's go ahead and dive in. In terms of success, I know you're a big practitioner of paying attention to what makes people successful. In the industries you're familiar with, Hollywood and in the music industry, as well as amongst public speakers, what does it really take to succeed in that super hyper-competitive industry?
Number one, not to have any fallback position.
Seriously?
Any superstar that I've ever worked with in the singing, acting, or speaking field, when I ask them the same question, why do you think you actually achieved such a high level of stardom? They say, because I had nothing to fall back on. Because if I would have had anything to fall back on, I would have chosen it. I would have fed myself. I would have fed my family. And we would have maybe gone in a different road. But because I had nothing to fall back on, I had to stay focused forward and keep trying to succeed at the only thing that I believed truly in my heart that I was good at.
Interesting. So really an exceptional level of perseverance because there's really no choice.
Yes, and I'll tell you specifically in the singing world, if you enter the business of singing, you want to be a recording artist, you want to make records and CDs, and you want to live in a mansion and drive lots of cars and have people screaming and jumping up and down in the audience. If you want to achieve that, no success happens from using that as the goal because it's a monetary reward.
Interesting.
But also, every famous singer I've ever worked with wanted to sing because they loved singing. They loved being on stage. They loved opening up their mouths and influencing an audience, and we're going to talk about that, because literally how I got into teaching so many famous speakers was I spent about 20 years teaching famous singers. I started with Stevie Wonder and the Beach Boys and the Jacksons and Luther Vandross and amazing, amazing singers like that. But I realized that great singers, great performers have this influence ability over an audience. And I started thinking, after I'd been getting calls from John Gray and Tony Robbins and Susie Orman and Glenn Beck and all these superstar speakers, there must be a way for me to transfer all of the techniques that I use for speaking, for singing, and transfer them into speaking so that I could give my speakers, not just professional speakers, because I say all of us are professional speakers.
Absolutely.
The second we open our mouth, that's the audience, and we're professional speakers. If it's the dog, if it's our wife, if it's our boss, if it's somebody who works for us, we're all professional speakers. The bottom line is, I wanted to have those speakers have the same type of influence over their audience of listeners. So I spent years and years and years trying to find what would be the magic that I could do in singing and how could I transfer that into speaking. And I must have studied every book and every technique and every source I could find. And guess what I came up with at the end of years of full court press study?
What?
There's no difference between singing and speaking. And if I just would have realized that at the get-go,
Right.
I would have kind of I would have just been happier. But the truth is that I came full circle. The brain doesn't differentiate between speaking and singing.
Right.
When you're singing, the brain thinks you're speaking, but you're holding out the words longer, and there's more melody than you normally have. So other than duration
Right.
and melody, the vocal cords, the body, the air, the brain, it's all doing the same thing, speaking and singing. Once I realized that, all I had to do was train my speakers how to have that sing-songy quality, how to control the variables of what we call tonality. Okay?
Great.
There were studies since the late 60s that tried to prove when I speak to you, what makes you believe the things that I say.
Mm-hmm.
And though those statistics have been grossly exaggerated over the years, and experts flaunt these statistics all the time, saying that 55% of whether or not you believe me has to do with my physiology, what my body's doing while I'm creating sound.
Right.
And that 38% has to do with tonality, the sounds my voice makes aside from the words.
Right.
38%. And that about 7% are the words that you use. Well, go ahead.
It's interesting. I was going to say that I've noticed this myself. I do a lot of teaching across multiple mediums, sometimes in person, sometimes through videos like these, sometimes through audios, sometimes through text. And I find that my video teaching is much more effective because I have this intangible body language that conveys a lot. My audio is probably second most effective, and much to my own dismay as a writer, my writing is the least effective because a lot of that other information doesn't come across. And so there are things, particularly in business, around, are you trustworthy, right? And that's not just the words you say; it's how you said it, how you looked with your eyes. Lots of little intangibles that we've all sort of grasped qualitatively. There's a couple things you mentioned earlier I want to tease out because you kind of went over them really quickly and they're really profoundly important for my audience. You mentioned earlier around the people that were successful in music, they did it for a love of the work. And the consequence of a love of the work was they happened to become rich and famous. But that sounds like it was never the goal. You raise a great point about using voice to influence. And a lot of my students come from technical backgrounds, mathematical backgrounds, MIT physics PhDs and whatnot. And in academia, the focus is on being correct. So if you did the work and you are objectively, factually, mathematically correct, it's just a given that you get recognized as being the one that got it right. And
Right.
one of the challenges a lot of the PhDs in particular have is they'll go into a client, might be a CEO or a division CEO of a major company with $1 billion or more in sales, and they'll present in a very nervous fashion. They won't sound confident, but they'll actually be correct. And they're just flabbergasted that, well, I was right, I proved my point mathematically, yet they didn't believe me, and then they're stumbling and they get negative feedback that you aren't being impactful, which is the big thing you want to be in consulting. And it
So
really comes
let
down
me
to
help
voice.
them.
Let's
Let
do
me
it.
help them. Let me start giving you some nuts and bolts as to what sounds are working for your people
Great.
and what's maybe not working for your people.
Let's do that. Well, there's one comment you made in one of your classes I was taking about your voice as an instrument. And it was really impactful for me because I never thought of my voice as an instrument. I think I have a piano for the kids. I played violin for all 3 months as a child. And I never realized I was walking around with an instrument. I always wanted to play a musical instrument, and I realized I have one, and I just never knew how to play it. So let's dive into voice, and what are the mechanisms by which you can play this instrument we call our voice? What makes it sound great and confident and self-assured, and what makes it sound either sketchy or uncertain or nervous, which gets interpreted in all kinds of negative ways, particularly in the corporate environment?
Okay, perfect. I say that basically I'm just a piano builder. People come into me and they bring their piano. Okay, that's their instrument, their voice. I'm likening it to a piano. And then if it was a piano, I would see, well, how many keys do you have? Do you have all the white ones? Do you have all the black ones? Does your piano go all the way down to the bottom where it's supposed to? Does it have 88 keys? People come into me and I say that they are a bad piano.
Okay.
Because most of the time people are coming in and instead of having 88 keys on their piano, they have 2 or 3 keys that they are using as a musical instrument with their voice.
Interesting.
So a piano goes from very low to very high,
Right.
and the human voice can also do that. But most people are not doing that. Most people are only using about 2 or 3 of the actual notes on a piano. Let me rephrase this. When I speak, if the words that come out have a particular pitch, in other words, I say, I can. So if that was a note, it would be, I can. I could go to the piano and hit plunk, plunk.
Okay.
And that would correspond to a particular note on the piano keyboard. Da-da, hello. Da-da, hello. Da-da, my name. Da-da-da, my name is. So every time that you're actually speaking, there are notes that you are singing.
Little interesting.
And they correspond to notes that are actually on a piano or any other musical instrument. Okay? Here's the bad news.
Okay.
The second you open your mouth, people are judging you and making perceptions and value judgments about you that are almost 100% incorrect. But they don't know you. All they have is maybe the intro that somebody just said. You gave me a nice intro, so people are thinking, well, maybe he's not a charlatan. or they have the information that on a resume, your people are going in, and the person that's being interviewed, the interviewee or the interviewer, is saying, I just read your resume. Here's the information that I have. Here's the background. Here are your credentials. But the truth is, the second you open your mouth, no matter what I know about you or don't know about you, I start asking myself questions.
Absolutely.
Is this person a nice person? Is this person a smart person? How much money does this person make a year? How much money does this person have at the bank? Is this person married? Is this person, where did he go to college? What are his parents like? Does he have a dog? Does he like big dogs? Why is he wearing that outfit? Who picked out that shirt? Where did he get those shoes? How tall is he? The most ridiculous parameter of any question that pops into their mind, all of these questions are popping through their minds because they don't know you, okay? And you can't stop those questions. You think those questions are only related to you're here for a job interview or you're here for a particular subject. And you think that they're only thinking questions that are related to the subject, but that's not how the human brain works. They are really thinking basics.
It's very true. I do a lot of job interviews, and I have found that the interview, 80% of the time, I know in the first 5 minutes, maybe even the first 3 minutes, what the final decision is going to be. Now, I have to sit there through the whole thing to be polite and be respectful and not get sued, frankly. But there definitely is 2 layers. There's is what you're saying technically correct, and that I can usually figure out in 5 minutes. And there's also, are you a jerk? You know, do I want to be in the same room with you? Do I trust you to be in front of my client where if you mess up, I get fired? You know, that assessment happens very, very, very quickly, and it's very rare that you change somebody's mind later. Really extremely rare.
You say 3 minutes, I say you've got under 15 seconds. You've got under 15 seconds for that person to decide whether they like you enough to listen to you and pay attention to you to anything that happens after the first 15 seconds. So let's go back. I already used my piano analogy of every single word that you say has some corresponding note on the piano, okay? So here's the issue. Excuse me. When people are speaking, when a lot of you people are speaking, they think they have all of the greatest content in the world. They think that they have all the personality to sell it. But what might be coming out is this, what we call monotone. And here, I'm just going to stay on the same note over and over and over, as if I was a piano with one note. Now, I'm trying to make it interesting because I'm making some of the words louder and some of the words softer. But if you stripped out all of that, what you would have is that I'm on the same note the whole time. And you're not going to believe it, but the average number of notes that the common person who's even successful in business to some degree, the average number of notes that somebody uses is 2.5.
Is it really that bad?
2.5. That's the average. So most people are only using 1 or 1.5 notes, which means they don't even get to the next black or white one. So this is what my demonstration of monotone is. No matter what you say, you are going to bore the person to tears, because here's how it works. You hear me and you think you know what I'm going to sound like next, because once you've heard 6 or 7 words that sound the same, you think that the next 500 words are going to sound the same. When you think you know what I'm going to sound like next, you stop listening to me, because you think you know what I'm going to say next. So you think that the sound is going to be the same, and that you all of a sudden go, well, I know what he's going to say. I don't have to listen. And you shut me out. So now here, that's step 1. That's the average person who's using 1 or 2 notes. Okay, what if you're a little bit more bold and you're like, well, I would never do that. I don't have a monotone voice, even though most people do. Well, then you might be just hovering around 1 note, and then when you really get excited, you'll go to another note, and then you'll come back to the safety of their 1 note. So listen, Victor, I'm here, but I really care about this. So when I'm super excited, I'll go to that note, and then I'll come right back to where I feel safe. So the majority of people who are not 100% monotone fall into this next category. I'll just stay on this note for as long as nobody notices, and then I'll go up to another note, and then I'll come back. So that's unacceptable too. I already said there's 88 notes on a piano. The human voice can easily do 3 octaves, which is about 25 notes comfortably.
Wow.
Okay? So if 25 notes fits comfortably into anyone's voice, no matter whether you're a singer or a professional speaker or anything, and you're using 1 or 2 or 3, you're not understanding melody. So those of you, everyone who's watching this video and listens to this audio has to record themselves sometime today or tomorrow, and they have to listen back. They can talk about anything, but they have to listen back and see how many times they just hit the same note. And they will all be shocked, because what I want it to sound like is I want lows and I want highs. I want to feel like I'm unpredictable, so that I can go up here when I want and I can come back down here. That I'm always playing this game of low, high, low, 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 high, high as I want to be, and then back down low. Because in music, that's how you keep people interested. Music has a melody, a way that the words and the notes are constructed to keep you forward thinking into what's coming next.
One quick observation, I noticed that when I was a kid, the best storytellers had this huge vocal range. You know, right before the suspenseful thing, and they come right back down, they come back up. And what's interesting is, in the work that we do as consultants, even though it's very analytical, we're ultimately translating quantitative information into a story with drama and suspense, and so this very much plays right into hand. If most people are using only 2 or 3 notes, and ideally they could use up to 25 in terms of their biological capability, how many notes in terms of a range do they need to hit to not sound boring and at least sound better than the person with 2.5 notes? What's the right number to, at a minimum, to sound pretty good?
Minimum is they have to have at least 1 octave, so about 8 notes, okay? That they have to at least have 8 notes.
Seems very achievable.
Somewhere between 8 and 12 notes, okay? Between 8 and 12 would be more than acceptable for anyone in any line of business to be communicating with. Again, because your people have so many facts and so much content, you can't be thinking that the content makes you likable enough to be the delivery person of that content. The very, very first thing a speaker has to do is, when they're starting a communication, they have to sell 2 or 3 things right away. You have to sell happy. How are you going to sell happy? You're not going to sell happy on a monotone voice, because monotone is sad. Oh, I have so many things to tell you today that are going to change your life and change your company. And I'm just bubbling over with enthusiasm right now. I know your profits are going to go through the roof. Within 6 months, your company is going to be valued at 50 times what it is right now. Do you want to know what I have to say?
No.
No. You're willing to forgive the money.
Yes.
Right there. If I've got to listen to you for 6 months, I don't want the money. I don't care about the evaluation. So that you have to sell happy.
Okay.
Melody is the fastest way to sell happy, not nervous.
Cool. Great.
Okay? When you are nervous, all of a sudden you retreat to what you think is comfortable zone. So you go back to the one note that you think that's your voice and that you're used to hearing. So there's no venturing away from safety, and you sound not happy. So one total reversal of nervousness is to have all of this melody. Okay? Lots of melody. That's one thing. Next thing, volume. Because people don't know how to breathe correctly, and because people only use 1 or 2 notes normally when they speak, and they're not professional singers, they settle into a volume of speaking voice that is not acceptable for public consumption.
How so?
You should speak as if the people or the person that you are talking to is at least 10 feet away. Your job isn't to fill the space between you and that person. Your job is to fill the entire room, all of the space in the room, with your presence and your voice and your sound. You've got to be loud enough to fill that space. When I'm talking on the phone, I don't talk like this, with the receiver close to my mouth. I talk like this, and I fill up the room with my sound. And what gets in here is great, and it's going to work, but it's also going to fill up the room. So I don't talking like this is like talking to yourself. We are a world of self-communicators. It's like we're talking to ourselves. We can hear ourselves, so we think we must be loud enough for other people to hear. But sound coming from inside that vibrates our bodies is completely different, volume-wise, than sound that is coming towards us and wanting to vibrate the listener.
So it sounds like most people assume they're much louder than they actually are in terms of volume.
Most people hate the sound of their own voice. so they are camouflaging that self-hatred with being softer. Haven't you ever been someplace where people are like, oh, do you have any accents? I'm like, yes, I'll do my English accent for you. And then they go, yes, here's my English accent. Now this one's French. Oh, here's my French accent. And I sound like this. Oh, yes, the bread is a little bit crusty on the outside. And people are like, can you do it louder? I'm like, oh, no, I can't do it louder. And suddenly my French accent just louder. Suddenly my French accent just became Indian.
Right.
And louder, I'm susceptible to all criticism. So people get into this lulled quietness as if that's somehow acceptable and that it's somehow safe. Here's the problem. People, when they get louder, without melody, they sound angry.
Interesting.
So all of the things I teach are interrelated. So I say, I want you to have more volume, right? But you can't have more volume unless you have more melody. Because if you attach melody and volume, the volume doesn't come across as angry. I can be as loud as I want, but if I have melody, clearly I'm not angry. I'm happy. I'm just exuberantly happy. So volume mixed with melody is friendly. It's happy. So you don't want to sound nervous. You don't want to be too soft, and you don't want to be monotone. So you start with lots of melody and lots of volume, and then the melody and the volume combined give the person who's listening to you the feeling, the instant feeling, man, this person is happy. I don't know what they're so happy about, but they are happy. Guess what the next thing you got to prove is?
What?
Grateful.
Grateful, okay.
I am so grateful to be speaking to you, Victor, today. I'm grateful for the opportunity to teach the world to speak, because Coca-Cola lied all those years ago. Coca-Cola said they wanted to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony.
They did say that.
They had commercials, years and years of that's what they said, but all they did was teach the world to drink sugar. So I have taken up the banner.
Good for you.
That Coca-Cola has dropped. And I have decided to make it even harder on myself. Not only am I going to teach the world to sing, I'm going to teach the world to speak. And in my own little way, once I've taught the world to sing, and once I've taught the world to speak, I will somehow make the world a better place. Because how could it hurt? Right? I say I'm going to change the way the world sounds, one voice at a time. So you're in here, you're selling happy. You're selling grateful. You better sell grateful, because that person who's interviewing you or thinking about hiring you or wanting to learn from you needs to know that you're not only happy, but that you are grateful for this opportunity at this moment in the universe to be sitting face to face and to have this communication.
Let me do a little quick timeout. Let me translate for my audience. This the insight you made about increasing volume without the melody coming across as angry, I think is really interesting. I would also attribute some other qualities to it that management consultants really want to have. It's really important for consultants to be personable. So we want people who are intellectually smart, can do math, but are great people. And as you were talking about what you just did, it dawned on me what causes someone to come across as personable as we define it in that industry. And it really is the melody, because if you are correct technically with your content, but you're loud and flat, you don't come across as warm, friendly, or personable, or dare I say charming would be a great one to have into the repertoire. And so I never realized that those two were related. Just for demonstration's sake, can you show me what monotone but louder sounds like, what you characterize as angry, so our audience can sort of hear what that sounds like?
Yes, so I'm so happy to be here today with you, because you are a good-looking guy, and you've got nice glasses, and you've got a full head of hair, and I'm getting louder, but I'm keeping it on the same note. So no matter what I talk about, I love my dog. I absolutely love my wife. I love my 2 kids. I can't wait to get home to my 2 kids because I love them.
It sounds like you're lying.
And also, if you try to fake too much melody, if you have too big of jumps, okay? Here's what fake melody sounds like, because a lot of people do this. Well, Roger says that I have to have more melody. So I'm going to make sure that I go high and low whenever I can. I love my dog. I hate golf. Golf is funny. It's so funny. I love it. That's fake melody.
Sounds disingenuous.
Disingenuous, because it's like, imagine this. If I'm a piano player, the notes are, all the white notes and the black notes are all connected, right? So with all melody, you want to not go one note here and then one note at the totally other side of the piano, and then one note totally on the other side, and then one note totally on the other side, and then one note on the other side. That's going to sound ridiculous. You want to cluster it. So what you hear is, in my melodies, I'm taking low, high, but I'm not going low, super high, and then super low. I'm keeping the notes right relatively around one another. And I also want to teach you the next thing that you need to think about.
Let's do it.
You need to connect all the words together if you want to make your melody and your volume work.
How so?
Okay. If I don't connect the words together, and I do my example again of lots of melody, if this is how I talk, a couple of words here, and then a couple of more words here, and then I can, lots of melody, but you just, look, I've got this real estate I want to sell to you, and you seem like a smart guy, so don't you want it? I will sell it to you at a cheap price, and you will make profit. That's disconnected words with a lot of melody. Now let me say the same thing. When I speak, I connect all the words together, and I only stop until I get to a comma or when I get to a period. When you listen to any great speaker, all the words are connected until you get to a comma or until you get to a period. You must have a solid stream of air exiting your mouth so that the words can ride out on that solid stream of air. If I connect all my words together, I can have as much melody as I want, and I don't sound fake anymore. So it is the connecting all the words together without stopping in between. I advise the same people that are listening to this that recorded their voice and listened to also YouTube the speech from Martin Luther King. Any of his famous speeches. You will hear Martin Luther King connecting all the words together as if he was singing and only stopping when he gets to a comma, which means that you not only connect all the words together, but you hold out certain vowels. Most of your people speak in this cadence. Every single word has the same length. This and that and this and that. I love my dog. I hate my dog. But I'm telling you that the important words, they need to be stretched out. You have to sustain certain words, just like singers do. I love my dog. I love my dog. You see, same time space. I love my dog. Most of us speak short words, all the words, very, very important. Here are the statistics, but every single syllable is the same length. Every single word, same duration. So I'm having a conversation that to the other person just sounds like this. Da 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 da. Whereas when I speak, it sounds like this. Da 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 la da 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 da. Just like music. 3 things you have to be thinking of right now. I don't speak loud enough. That's what's making me sound nervous. I don't have enough melody in my voice. That's what's making me sound nervous. I don't connect all my words together. That's what's making me sound nervous. Because when you get nervous and when you are perceived as being nervous, your pulse speeds up. Okay? So your body starts taking faster breaths, more shallow breaths, and your words start to get faster. So if you fall into this pattern, short words, you're giving off the impression that you're taking short breaths and that you're nervous and scared because all of the words are coming out faster and shorter.
That's
Whereas If I have all the time in the world, I'm going to stretch out certain words, and I'm going to speak to you on my terms.
It's interesting when you were doing some of that mimicry. You When you're connecting the words, you come across like a McKinsey partner, because partners, they're so used to the technical stuff, they can literally do it in their sleep. They know, a quarter of the CEOs in the Fortune 500. So for them, it's playing. They're just hanging out and doing their thing, and the words are connected when you play. And the young analysts right out of undergrad or out of a PhD program, an MBA, they're really just trying to. You can tell without knowing people's titles. When you just eavesdrop in a conversation with mixed titles in terms of the people in the room, you can tell who's a partner and who's not. And it sounds like the things you mentioned really, I think, describe what are the distinguishing characteristics between someone who speaks like a partner versus someone who's just trying to get the information out as fast as possible.
Perfect. I love that. You have to understand that voice for a singer is about establishing a character.
Okay.
People say to me, I don't feel comfortable using all that melody. That goes against my personality. I don't feel comfortable using all that volume. That goes against my personality. I don't feel comfortable connecting all my words together, sounding more sing-songy. That goes against my personality. And I'm like, great. So we could spend 10 years having you go to therapy, figuring out why your personality is shy, reserved, not commanding, not showcasing all of your abilities, not delivering your message. You could go to therapy and spend 10 years or more and spend a lot of money figuring out that you don't feel comfortable about this other part of you that you're trying to present to the public because you know that'll give you success. Or you could just let me change your voice so that you sound strong and confident and never shy, but also grateful and happy, and that you're an expert. You sound like you're an expert, and that the person can learn from you and wants to learn from you. There are other sounds that people are making that make them sound nervous and make them sound unsure. And we call it the squeaky hinge. Okay, let me give you an example of that. And every single one of the people that you know is guilty of this to some degree, okay? And you're going to listen to me and you're going to be like, I don't do that, and then I'm going to show you how you do it.
Okay.
Okay?
Go for it.
You're like, people talk and then they fall into this kind of a sound, which is, like I said, I call it the squeaky hinge, because it's like the sound of a door opening without any WD-40. Okay? So you're like, well, none of my people, all my people are geniuses.
Right.
They're master's degree, they're PhDs, and they don't have any of this ridiculous sound. Okay. And then I say, those same people who recorded themselves speaking, what they're going to notice is that the first part of their sentence sounds great,
Yes.
and then they get to the end of the sentence and they start trailing off, and then they goes into that.
Yes.
That the last word of most people's sentences when they run out of air goes to that. And they're going to hear that squeaky hinge at the very end of the sentence, or right before they get to a comma, or when they get to a period. That they're going to notice that their voice drops into that squeaky hinge, and they're going to be shocked at how much they do that squeaky hinge. And that squeaky hinge makes people sound weak, shy, tired, and it throws away important words in the sentences. You know what I teach? I teach that the last word before a comma or a period is the most important word of any sentence, of every sentence. Why? Because when you get to a comma or to a period, you are either telling your listener, I'm done, or there's more to come.
Right.
So watch. Here's how most people speak. I'm talking to you, and it's of great importance, and then I get to a comma. And my voice goes down. And then I'm talking to you some more, and I get to a period. And then I'll talk to you some more, and I'll get to another comma. And then I'll talk to you some more, and I'll get to another period. We were taught to go down for commas and periods. We were taught to get softer for commas and periods. But musically speaking, when you go down, you are telling the listener, I'm done. But you're not done. I explain to people that they need to go up when it gets to a comma or a period, or at the very least stay on the same note.
Okay.
Can I give you an
Yes, please.
example? I'm talking to you now and I get to a comma and I went up and then I entered back into the sentence and I got to a period, same note. And now I'm going to talk again and I'm going to be in another sentence and I'm going to get to a comma. And then I'm going to jump back in because I left you hanging and I'm going to get to another comma. And then I'm going to jump back in. But what happens is, because I went up, you know there's more coming. Music isn't, the hills are alive with the sound of music, with songs they have sung for 1,000 years. No, it's the hills are alive, same note, with the sound of music, more to come, with songs they have sung for 1,000 years. The hills fill my heart, same note, with the sound of music. My heart wants to sing every song it hears. I'm not done. Music never lets you down. It always tells you when it's done by going down and you're done.
Never thought of it that way. You
So-
see notes everywhere you go, don't you?
Everywhere I go. Everywhere I go. I see people singing, and you're singing to me, the dog is singing to me, everyone is singing to me, and it's all notes.
I really appreciate you've taken the time to really show us, all the attributes of sound and voice, particularly as it relates to confidence and nervousness. My goal for this session was really to build the awareness in my audience to know how to have a vocabulary to describe what their voice sounds like and to have some sense of what areas they might potentially want to change. And certainly you've sort of hit that goal out of the ballpark. I have notes of what I'm going to do differently starting tomorrow. So I'm going to go look at my own voice recordings. And there I am again.
May I say? Let me say one thing. You have a beautiful voice. You have nice melody. You have good physiology, which we didn't talk about. You have very, very friendly, trusting face. Your job is to remove all fillers. You randomly will insert uhs and ums.
Yep.
Okay? You're a professional. Okay? You've got to eliminate your uhs and ums. You are done with that.
I'm done.
You know what? You know why you put uhs and ums?
I think so.
Because you're not connecting all the words together and only stopping at a comma.
Ah, interesting.
And
okay.
then allowing dead space. You and most professional, successful speakers think that there can't be any dead space. So you fill that dead space with uhs and ums. And I am here to tell you that dead space is the greatest gift you can give to your listeners. Because I say a whole line up until a comma, and while I'm breathing, the person is thinking about what I just said, and thinking about what am I going to say next, and then I jump back in. The power of the pause, the power of commas and periods, is the greatest gift you can give to your listeners. So give them more gifts of dead space. Connect all your words together. Do not insert any uhs or ums because you're too awesome to even have one or in any video presentation that you do because you're the man.
Thank you so much.
Okay? And we don't need it and you don't need it. And just that little tweak.
Perfect. Thank you for that. It's funny, the very first public speaking course I took in college, that was they gave me a little card of the 5 things I need to work on. This was decades ago. And number 1 was the filler words. So I'm very aware of it. When I do a formal presentation, I had to think really hard and remind myself when I can hammer it out for just those 20, 30 minutes. but I find I have difficulty in everyday conversation because it's not my natural habit. And like many things in life, I suspect voice and changing voice, you have to develop from sort of intellectual knowledge to an actual habit, which has been a struggle for me, which is why, by the way, I took your courses, because I knew it was an issue and I wanted to finally get to a point in my life where I can just kind of get rid of it.
That was beautiful, and you hardly had one until I just interrupted.
I'll blame that last one on you. How about that?
That's why I believe that everything has to be simple. That's why I teach people specific exercises they're supposed to do 10 to 15 minutes a day. Okay? That's all. It doesn't take hours a day. 10 minutes a day on the way to work, you put the CD in and you practice your exercises and you sound like this. Goog, 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 goog. Mum, 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 mum. And those exercises, which are really fun to do and are easy to do, are literally taking your vocal cords, putting them in the right spot, taking the air, putting it in the right spot, and giving you the right volumes and the right pitches and the right strengths so that you can open your mouth and not have to think about, what does my voice sound like? It has to be unconscious competence.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's fascinating. I started doing those exercises in the car, and my kids were in the back, and they're like, Dad, what are you doing? But then they started doing it too. So they can do the good, 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 good. So it's just quite hilarious. How does someone who's really interested in working on this part of their career, the voice and the confidence and projecting that, how do they learn these exercises and basically take what you shared with us today to the next level? What resources do you have that might be able to help them in that area?
I think that your people should go to my website, theperfectvoice.com. There's a lot of resources, a lot of free resources at theperfectvoice.com, where you just click on it and I'll send you free videos that'll teach you exercises. I'm not asking anyone to make any financial commitment. I'm asking people to not even make a large time commitment. And I'm telling you that the rewards from just opening up your mind a little bit and listening to some of my content will absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, make you feel better about the way you present yourself and the way others perceive you. Go to The Perfect Voice. Click on, download my free videos and get a sense of more about what I mean about melody and volume and pacing and all of the things that we've just touched on. And then if you decide that you want to make a commitment, and there are so many products of mine at very, very low cost that you can get. You can get the Perfect Voice Starter Pack, which is a 4 CD presentation of everything that I know about voice, that you will have the exercises to practice with, and you will have the pedagogy and the techniques to learn. And your people are smart. So this is a very short time commitment. And like I said, I don't ever want to make my products unattainable to people. When you come to see me, you can't see me because I'm booked for the next year. As much as I would want to take more clients, knock on wood, I'm booked for the next year. So it's impossible to do private lessons with me. But what it is possible is I've created products that literally will make you feel like you are sitting with me at my studio. So The Perfect Voice is the perfect starter pack for anyone who really wants to take their communication to the next level. And look, I always say, we were all born with a voice, but I didn't find my manual. The doctor slapped me, and I think he stole my manual because he didn't have one, because I don't know how to use my voice. So I just basically keep writing the manual over and over and over and over so that you're not slapped and then you're crying the rest of your life with sounds that aren't getting you the milk and the nourishment that you need.
That's great. I have that program and going through that, as well as the one for more professional singers, because that's been a sort of an odd dream of mine, which I don't really share that often to other people. And you have this great teaching style. It really does feel like I'm in a lesson with you, and it's fascinating. I guess you've done this so much that you already know the questions I have in my head, because I'm sure someone's already asked you like a million times. So it's a great program. I've been learning a lot through that. and the exercises on that CD I think are great in terms of working those muscles to get them natural. And I'm not there yet, but it's something
You're pretty close.
I'm close? Oh, good. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Sound great. And well, thank you so much for that compliment. And the truth is that I'm in the moment, whatever moment I'm in, and you will not feel alone when you're listening to me or watching videos. And start with the perfect voice. And if you want to, go to my online singing academy or my online speaking academy. I mean, there are resources there, and like I said, you can start free. Just download the free videos and change the way you sound today, because you don't like the sound of your voice on your voicemail, and neither does anyone else. And you're going through life selling yourself to your girlfriends and your boyfriends and your colleagues and the people that you're trying to impress. You're trying to sell yourself with that squeaky, monotone, soft voice that you put on your voicemail. And let me tell you something, you're going to get a lot more calls back if you change the way you sound.
Big, powerful clients, they're influenced by big, powerful voices. That's very much true. And they're also influenced in the opposite way when that voice isn't there, as well as the body language and, of course, the technical content. So, Roger, I want to thank you so much for sharing what you've done today. You've really opened my eyes, even more than they were already open from your prior work, but they've done that with my audience, and I really appreciate that. And
my pleasure.
And for those who want to take advantage of Roger's free resources and some of his more advanced stuff, it's theperfectvoice.com. Did I get that right? Go on there, and there truly are a bunch of resources of a variety of types that I would encourage everyone to take advantage of. So, Roger, thank you so much. I've been really honored to have you on here today, and thank you for making the time. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you, and we'll talk again soon.
Sounds good.